Stop collecting people like Pokemon cards. While everyone's obsessed with building their network, nobody's talking about the silent tax you pay for every toxic connection you keep. Your energy isn't unlimited, and right now, someone in your circle is draining it dry. The real question isn't who you should add to your life, it's who you need to remove. What if protecting your tribe wasn't about being exclusive, but about being intentional? Let's decode this. How your social circle became a liability. Most people treat relationships like a hoarder treats stuff. They keep everything, even what's damaging them. You've been sold this idea that cutting people off makes you cold or toxic. But here's what they won't tell you. Keeping energy vampires around makes you complicit in your own destruction. Research from UCLA's Social Cognitive Neuroscience Lab found that social rejection activates the same brain regions as physical pain. That's why you tolerate bad relationships. Your brain literally interprets losing people as a threat to survival. But evolution didn't prepare you for modern social dynamics, where quality matters more than quantity. The tribe mentality worked when communities were small and survival depended on group cohesion. Now, you're surrounded by thousands of superficial connections that give you the illusion of belonging while leaving you completely isolated when things fall apart. It's social junk food. Tastes good, destroys you slowly. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Loyalty has become performative. People post about their day ones while stabbing them in the back privately. They show up for your highlights, but ghost during your rock bottom. And you keep them around because admitting you misjudged someone feels like admitting failure. But character recognition is a skill, not a personality flaw. Some people are masters at mimicking loyalty until they get what they need. They study your patterns, learn your language, gain your trust, then weaponize everything you share. And the worst part, you saw the red flags and ignored them because you wanted to believe people are good. Your inner circle should operate like an immune system, not an open wound. It should identify threats and eliminate them before they compromise the whole organism. Instead, most people run their relationships like a charity, accepting everyone, expecting nothing, getting destroyed. The shift starts with understanding that access is privilege, not right. Your time, energy, and emotional bandwidth are premium resources. Treating them like they're abundant is why you're exhausted while adding nothing meaningful to your life. Who in your life takes more than they give? And why are you still allowing it? What happens when you confuse history with loyalty? Shared history doesn't equal earned trust. You're keeping people around who knew you 10 years ago, but don't respect who you've become. They reference old versions of you to keep you small because your growth threatens their stagnation. That's not friendship, that's hostage negotiation. The sunk cost fallacy doesn't just apply to bad investments and failing businesses. It's the reason you tolerate disrespect from people you've known forever. You think, we've been through so much together, while ignoring that most of what you've been through was caused by their dysfunction. You're romanticizing trauma bonds as deep connection. Real loyalty shows up in elevation, not just duration. Someone who's been in your life for decades but consistently diminishes your wins isn't loyal, they're consistent. There's a difference. Consistency without positive impact is just reliable toxicity. Here's where it gets tricky. These people know your codes. They know exactly what to say to make you doubt yourself, to make you feel guilty for setting boundaries, to convince you that protecting your peace is selfish. They've studied your patterns because proximity gave them access to your operating system. The manipulation is subtle. They don't attack directly, they plant seeds of doubt. Are you sure you're not changing too much? Remember when you were more fun? Success is changing you. They frame your evolution as loss, your boundaries as coldness, your standards as arrogance. And it works because part of you is terrified they might be right. What if you are becoming someone unrecognizable? What if your new standards make you unlikable? But here's the reframe. The right people don't need you to stay small to feel comfortable around you. Your tribe should be your mirror and your challenge. They should reflect your potential when you forget it, and challenge your excuses when you're hiding. Anything less is an audience, not a support system, and audiences disappear the moment the show stops being entertaining. The hardest pill to swallow. Some people were only meant for a season, not a lifetime. Their role was to teach you what you don't want, who you don't need, what you won't tolerate anymore. Which relationships in your life are built on who you used to be instead of who you're becoming? Frequency. Drop a comment about the last time you had to cut someone off for your own sanity. Hit that like button if this resonated, and subscribe because we're just getting started. Why quality connections feel so rare. You're not imagining it. Finding people who actually get you is statistically improbable. Most humans operate on autopilot, repeating patterns they've never examined, living values they've never chosen. You're looking for conscious connection in a world of unconscious repetition. That's why it feels lonely even when you're surrounded by people. Authentic alignment requires self-awareness from both parties. You need two people who've done the internal work, who understand their patterns, who can communicate without playing games. That combination is rare because self-examination is painful, and most people avoid pain at all costs. So they stay surface level. They have the same conversations about weather, work, and weekend plans. They never go deeper because depth requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires trust, and trust requires time spent proving you won't weaponize their truth. Most people aren't willing to invest that energy. But to your tribe, they're the ones who skip the small talk and go straight to the real questions. How's your mental health actually holding up? What fear are you avoiding right now? When did you last feel genuinely proud of yourself? These conversations require emotional maturity that social media taught people they don't need. Here's your vetting process. Watch what people do when they have nothing to gain from you. When you're not successful, not connected, not useful to their agenda. The ones who stick around during your invisible phase. Those are your people. Everyone else was networking, not connecting. Pay attention to how people handle your success, too. Real ones celebrate without the bitter aftertaste of comparison. They're genuinely excited because your win doesn't diminish theirs. Insecure people can't separate your achievement from their inadequacy. They make your moment about their lack. Another marker, consistency across contexts. Are they the same person in private as they are in public? Do their values remain stable or shift based on who's watching? Performative loyalty is easy to spot once you know what to look for. It's loud, frequent, and strategic. The people who truly understand your frequency don't need constant updates to stay connected. There's no pressure to perform, no anxiety about gaps in communication. You can go months without talking and pick up exactly where you left off because the foundation is solid. What patterns have you noticed in the few relationships that actually feed your soul instead of draining it? Tribe. Share in the comments how you know when you've found your people. Like this if you're tired of fake connections, and subscribe for more raw truth about building a life that actually matters. How to build your circle like you mean it. Stop accepting people into your life by default. Proximity, shared history, or mutual friends aren't criteria, they're accidents. You don't build a fortress by leaving the gates open and hoping only good people walk through. You install checkpoints, verification systems, and consequences for breach of trust. Your inner circle needs entrance requirements, not because you're arrogant, but because you're intentional. What values must someone embody to access you? What behaviors are automatic disqualifiers? If you can't answer these questions clearly, you're running an open-door policy in a world full of opportunists. The uncomfortable reality is that most people will fail your standards once you establish them. And that's the point. Standards don't exist to be met by everyone, they exist to filter for the exceptional. You're not looking for fans, followers, or fair weather friends. You're building a coalition of people who would go to war for you and vice versa. This means accepting strategic solitude. There will be seasons where your circle shrinks dramatically because you're in transition, and most people can't handle the uncertainty. They need you to be predictable, stable, available. When you start choosing yourself, they call it selfish. Let them. Protecting your tribe also means protecting them from you on your worst days. Emotional maturity includes knowing when you're not safe to be around, when your unprocessed pain might hurt people who don't deserve it. Real strength is saying, I need space to deal with this before I bring it to you. Your people will understand that. They won't guilt trip you for having boundaries with them too. They recognize that healthy relationships require two whole people, not to halves trying to complete each other. Codependency isn't loyalty, it's mutual dysfunction with good marketing. The ultimate test. Would you be okay if this person saw you at your absolute worst and had that information forever? If the answer is no, they don't belong in your sacred circle. Keep them in the outer rings where they can't cause critical damage. Building your tribe isn't about finding perfect people, they don't exist. It's about finding compatible imperfections. People whose flaws you can tolerate because their strengths matter more. Who extend the same grace to you that you extend to them. If you could only keep 5 people in your life, who makes the cut and why? Legacy. Comment below about the hardest relationship you had to release to protect your peace. Smash that like button. If this shifted something in you, subscribe for weekly reality checks and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Your tribe is your future, choose accordingly.